to ask for access so that the Ottomans can walk through. Thank you. Love it.
Like, you don't have to be my friend, really. You just need to not be a hindrance.
Yeah, right. That's kind of exactly how it goes. I'm gonna take a chunk of land from my boy QQ, the black sheep. But that's for another time. This AJAM start's actually not that bad. Ew. Yeah. There's gonna be you may have some kitty action. Because holy crap.
Talkative today.
She's not happy with us, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, she's she is not she's not happy with us, I don't think. It's summertime. She wants to go outside because she grew up as an outdoor kitty, but we haven't gotten her her shots yet.
Okay. Yep.
And we're like getting things ready for the baby.
Yep. Makes sense.
And that's interesting all on its own. We are building we built actually wardrobes.
Oh yeah.
In the bedroom, right? So originally we were gonna have them custom built because the space that we have this alcove that's 2 meters 37 centimeters wide, right? And of course, like any of the prefab stuff, right? Like stuff from IKEA.
Yep.
Is 50 centimeters, 75 centimeters, or 100 centimeters. Yep. Well, I can tell you this because I'm math good, that there's no way that you can combine 50, 75, and 100 to get to 237. Like, you could get close, but close doesn't count. So,
not what you're after. You're after a little more specific.
No. Plus, we have 3.2 meter tall ceilings, so like 9 feet, right? 9 feet ceilings. So it's we've got the space, we might as well use it, right? So we built the tallest prefab wardrobe units that they sell at IKEA. Okay. These things are 1.5 feet taller than me.
Nice.
And Miriam's father-in-law, thank God, and her and I have been putting these things together over the last 3 days.
Oof.
Yep. But it's done now.
Well done.
So they're built. All the shelves are in. We had to take a 50 centimeter unit and cut it down to a little under 40 centimeters so that it would fit in the space, right, that's left over. We did all that. We even did that with the door, right, on the front, because these things all have doors on the front of them.
Yep.
So that is all done. The second, so part one is done. The second part is the living room, where we are going to have, again, a bunch of prefab sort of cabinet units that are being that are going to be mounted to the wall and sort of stacked on top of each other in this cool little array thing. And then there's a TV stand that's going to get mounted to the wall too.
Okay.
That's gonna, it's gonna have access to where the cable box comes in and all that kind of stuff, right?
Gotcha.
So all of that has been purchased, to my knowledge, and it's going to get assembled this week.
Hey, it is fun to have projects, and it is even better when you get them done and they look right.
Oh, well, and that's the thing. This is why it has not fallen to me and me alone to do these things, because I am very much a function over form guy, right? And so, if you set it up in the diagram that it was supposed to be on the 5th hole from the top, and I accidentally put it in the 4th or 6th hole, right? Or put a peg or a screw or something to hold something up in the 4th or the 6th hole from the top. Like, does it work? Yes. Good. Whatever. Done. The Mistress of Giggles, who I love very much, is the opposite of that. She is much more concerned about how things look, as well as them working. So we have an interesting dynamic when it comes to living space and cupboards, or wardrobe space and cupboard space and storage space. And
I got you.
So that is a kitty.
Fair. I'm sure my cats will be, I don't know if it'll be displeasure or what they will share with me from their last couple days, since
I'm sure they've been in hiding too, right?
Well, yeah. So what I do when I host Game Fest and big events is I actually put one of their litter boxes upstairs under Jed's old desk in the loft area, and I set up food and water for them up there, so that they don't really have to come downstairs for anything.
Okay.
And then usually they'll just kind of camp under that desk. Although it was interesting because, as late as we went, once things started settling down and people started passing out, I did notice a couple times them down on the stairs looking at us, and once or twice walking around in the common spaces when people weren't moving about. So, not that I will say that they have acclimated actually. I'm just hoping it means they were comfortable enough not to feel like they need to give retribution something back to me.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's just like,
hey, Goofus.
Oh, we're chill.
You want to say hi? You want to say hi to the fans?
Interwebs.
Yeah, say hi to the internet. No? You just want to lay down? Okay. Get comfy. Oh. Oh. You're so cute.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see when mine finally decide to come back down during the day and
hang
out in the same room as I.
The thing that'll make her want to leave the most.
Hey.
Is, hey, Ken. Is me shutting the door. Like, if I shut the door, she'll be like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, the choice is no longer mine. You can't do this.
I take it you're not talking about Mog.
No. Talking about the cat.
Makes more sense.
Oh, why is it doing
How's it going, guys?
It's going all right.
Why? How do we get the... How do we get the
thing in this place and stuff?
The topic for today.
How's Game Fest been, sir?
Oh boy, Game Fest.
How long have you been awake for?
This is a silly thing. I have been awake. Telling Todd that I think since Wednesday night I probably got somewhere in the range of 12 to 13 hours of sleep. So,
wow. Okay.
'Tis a thing.
That is kind of part and parcel of Game Fest, isn't it?
It often is. I don't know why the camera is telling me.
Yeah, I was going to say Todd's camera is not coming through at all.
It's switching that whoever is talking is the one that like their camera's coming out right now between you two, which is
Oh,
weird.
that's weird.
Yeah, see, it just switched. Now it's because Todd talked, it switched. It's like, what? Huh.
Oh,
I mean, that's one way to do it. It's just
Yeah, no, like the fact that it's switching is like Skype. Come on, this is not how NDI is supposed to work.
yeah. What
Yes.
the hell? That's so funny. I'm watching it bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, no. So I'm gonna look here, audio video stuff, or general. That's it. Da, da, da. Where is that setting?
We can't play this song on air.
If you recognize
Then
what the
I
song
got
actually
high.
is, you can. Because this one is not that. This one is.
Now I'm protecting Padme's
Oh.
life.
Okay,
And
it
you
sounds
know
just so similar to
why,
Star.
man? Yeah, because I'm Jedi. Because I'm Jedi.
Because I'm
Very good.
Jedi. La da 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 da.
Only the geekiest versions for us. Now, whether the beat alone and the sound of it gets us still a notification,
Yeah,
We
that's
shall
always
see.
possible.
Oh, boom, boom,
because it likes to do
boom.
that. Let's see, advanced. Allow NDI usage, yes. Okay. If I do this, and do this.
Yep.
That's so weird.
Then
Let me switch it off of what each one of these are and then see if it changes. Yeah. So now I'm curious. Ken, give me a talk real quick. I'm gonna see how it switches these two.
I talk real quick.
It switched them
I
both.
talk real quick.
Ah!
Do 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 do. That's really funny.
So that one should
I'm
be
in multiple places at once.
And one of you is really dark for some reason. The other one's a completely good brightness.
Oh, because
It's
one of them I
straight.
have filtering and the other I don't. That should be fine.
Do do
do,
do 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 do
Let me go
do
back to like this for a
do
moment.
do 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 do. Ha 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 ha.
I'm gonna be so frustrated with this today.
Happy 4th of July, by the way. I don't know if I said that at the start.
You had not yet, but yes.
Do you celebrate that at all still in Norway, Todd?
In other years, there usually is a party thrown by the Americans in Oslo, where they have a band that plays both type of music, country and western. And they have an American football game and a car show, and lots of food.
I was gonna say there must be a barbecue or something.
I went, yeah, kinda. I went the first year I was in Oslo, and I haven't really gone since. So.
Do you miss that at all? That's our American cultural holidays.
Nah. No. The reason why I say that is because at my former employer, Wayne's current employer, what would happen is sort of all of the fringy holidays in the middle of the year that weren't Memorial Day, Independence Day, or Labor Day, or Thanksgiving, all got lumped at the end of the year so that we would have a week between Christmas and New Year's off. Right? So there was this huge gap between New Year's Day and Memorial Day where there were no vacation days at all. Right?
Oh, so this must just represent a time of the year when you normally got to work.
Yeah. So once you get to Memorial
real
Day,
quick,
it's like,
guys,
oh, thank
I'm
God
going
they're
to-
gonna be days.
I'm
There are
gonna
gonna
leave
be
the
days
call
off.
and come right back. To see
problem.
if I can get
Okay.
this to fix. And so we'll see what happens here. Alright. So I killed Skype, bring it back, reinitiate these NDI devices as they're chatting and having a good story.
days off at Easter. Then you get Labor Day, which is in the beginning of May.
Aha!
And the Norwegian National Day, which is in the middle of May. And then there's a religious holiday called Pinsa, which is at the end of May. And so March, April, and May are sort of where all the middle of the calendar year holidays show up. And now that that's all over, there's a huge gap until the end of the year. Now part of that is, you get the school system does a week vacation in spring and a week vacation in fall. They call it winter. They call it winter break, even though I think it happens in February, and fall break. And everybody with kids takes that whole week off because the kids aren't going to be in kindergarten and they're not going to be in not going to be in school, right?
So you celebrate more of the Norwegian holidays now, national holidays?
Well, yeah, for the most part. I mean, like, I don't know that I'm even going to talk to my parents today, even though ordinarily I would on a day like today. But, if there's time after the show, I'll probably call them. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. Do I miss? Not really. I'm such a hermit socially that I don't use holidays as a reason to go outside and do stuff. Like, right. I've never been a fan of that kind of thing. Like, oh, it's Friday and it's 5:00. That means I can binge drink for the next 3 days. It's like, no.
I can do that any day, damn it.
If you want to,
I don't need a holiday for that.
Binge drink because it's Tuesday,
right?
Like, don't sit there and tie yourself to these artificial milestones that aren't real, right? So
feel the same way with burritos for breakfast, man.
With what?
Burritos for breakfast. There's no such thing as breakfast food. There's just food.
Yeah. I love breakfast burritos anyway. Like, it's the same thing with breakfast pizza. The only difference between breakfast pizza and normal pizza are the toppings.
Right? Not necessarily. It's the type of day, really. You can have breakfast pizza at night.
Yeah, you could. I much prefer breakfast pizza in the morning. I can just say that. I'm gonna go grab a drink real quick before the show, so I'm gonna be AFK for.
Get all the hydration, so we're going to go. See, this is a reminder to the people who watch why we have a pre-show here on Show X, and that is that sometimes the things, especially in this day being one that I've moved the computer back and forth, not everything links up immediately, and so part of getting on 10, 15, 30 minutes early is to work out details and bugs.
I noticed that I screwed up the video, by the way. I see I've still got the episode 498 highlighted, so it's got a little box around it. I'm sorry.
Just make it a point that is where that's at.
Yeah, it's very important to highlight it. It's actually going to be a theme of the show is disappointment, so that's actually a part of today's episode. So,
just kicking it off from right up front, everybody. That just be aware this is what you got coming. Well, and admittedly, right before we get started, although I was trying to decide if I put the caveats after I start the roll credits, or if I just go in, or if I say it now, right? Because Game Fest, and therefore all the good, bad, and ugly that comes with Game Fest, which I'll try to regale in a very short time frame, maybe top of the show here, but to also excuse myself, I guess, of my my current mental capability.
Well, I remember shows in the past where there's 4 or 5 people on the show at once, and all at various levels of sleep and alcohol imbibement. So I think today's going to be probably one of the more relaxed Game Fest from the looks of it in terms of how it affects the show.
Well, officially, I mean, the only people still in the house are Unit Zero, but he's sleeping right now, and Mika and shoot, I'm trying to think of the other gaming names to say, but
Sean.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, John and Beck. But,
Well, he said he's been on the show as his real name before. I think we can just say his real
Yeah,
name.
but I was just trying to remember. But this is the fatigue kicking in, right? I wasn't sure if it was going to go by like Qatar or I was like, what does he have it on? I forget right now. Legend Tinker. Thank you, Mika. So yes, the caveat top of the show as I get ready to roll credits here is that, I may have had 12 or 13 hours of sleep in the past 4+ days, and so with alcohol and water in hand, although no caffeine, we will see how much energy I have going forward. But I think we'll start off things here, and I will give a quick recap of Game Fest, the vaccinated edition that was just hosted this weekend. That is oddly enough basically
you want
over.
the intro first?
Yeah. No, I'm waiting for the hand to click here. I'm looking at the time.
Okay.
We were gonna do dead air until the top of the hour.
That's always
That's
fun
like
too.
1990s AM radio trick right there.
Yeah, just let it
And
go.
like nobody noticed because it was AM and nobody was listening.
Right. Anyways, it's just suddenly it's on. Like now.
Game remove.
Like now, where I stop the music, I kick the volume up, and I hit the button. And look at that.
Hiya, this is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in the student accommodation all the way in Scotland. Wait, that was years ago. You're listening to Show X Live with your favorite Scotsman Ken, currently residing in the US of A, and Wayne, mostly from Colorado.
Hey, wait a second. I'm on the show too, and I don't get any billing at all? Well, I know how to solve this. Soldater, Fremad, March! You're listening to Show X with our favorite Scotsman Ken, our child of the corn Wayne, currently living in Colorado, and Todd, who now has an army of angry Norwegians at his back. Enjoy the show!
And I'm like, oh, now I have the button and do stuff. Hey, everybody, and
So
welcome to Show
I've
X.
got some roboting already, by the way.
Oh, and let me do the. I will force the audio pickup again to say do all the audio things, and hopefully that will be better. But hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, July 4th, the Day of Independence here in the United States. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Off the bat, we are going to be talking today about game journalism in the form of what's happening on the web and how specific sites, in this case Kotaku, will be pressing forward with new direction on the things they want to cover and how they see the gaming universe and gaming journalism going forward. But to kick things off, as I am going to caveat for the energy and what I display the show, is that, as if you're in the pre-show, you hear, it's Game Fest weekend, and while gaming and not sleeping, things get rather not tiresome. When I say I am fatigued, but I'm running on the adrenaline necessary to keep going. Lots of nights of up till 3, 4 in the morning, and getting up at basically 7 or 8 in the morning the next day to continue pressing. Part of it for me this week was started off early by I had my younger brother Earthweaver and my niece. What does she go by? Wolf Dragon. Come all the way, travel this epic journey from Iowa, stopping in Nebraska to pick up my niece, and then coming all the way out here for Game Fest. And we, they got in, thankfully not terribly late, but that Wednesday night. And then, of course, hey family, stay up late chatting and good to see you. And then getting things situated. And then next morning, get up and, hey, it's nice, it's summer. Let's go to Waterworld. Because you guys have never been to the water park here in Denver, which I quite enjoy. And took them there. It was a beautiful day in the sense that it was cloudy and overcast and coldish most of the day, which at Waterworld was actually very welcome because it threatened to rain the entire day and never did. Enjoy the day, but it meant I was up early then with little sleep, and then spent all day at a water park. I always talk about sun and water together means you have no energy. And then it went right into, I thankfully posted, like, nobody come over before 6. Because having not hosted a Game Fest since, Ken, you were at the last one February of last year.
I know. I almost made 2 in a row.
People were chomping at the bit to come see each other in person again. And
I bet.
We had quite a good showing for a Thursday night of people coming in. Pretty much all the old school had shown up, as well as, of course, Campo and I don't know, Beebs, I think, came Friday and such, but a good grouping that I had shot a quick picture of, like, Thursday night gaming like a Friday night gaming. Just a bunch of people there already jumping in, playing games. Stayed up till a good 4 a.m, Thursday night into Friday. Got up Friday early. Had to kind of, and part of the process getting ready to is that I had allowed myself a year and a half of all the things in my house that I do for projects that I like to do in the basement, continuing to exist and extend throughout the basement, such that the week and a half prior to Game Fest, when I finally did the math and said, oh, that's like almost next week, I should probably make room for people to sit down here. I had to find places for a year and a half worth of projects that were not complete, all to not be in the main space in the basement, so that I could have places for people to sit. But got it all sorted up to last cleaning of tables, the last few, like in the order I knew people would arrive. But got it all taken care of. And then people gamed all weekend. Call it a little short. Friday night, which I do as my board game, social drink night. Other people who are not there to spend the weekend with their computers come hang out. It was a banging party in that, again, a lot of people who had not been out for a year plus all showed up. People I hadn't seen for over a year, some 2 years or so. And we all just got on. Lots of Rock Band, lots of card games, lots of drinks and food, and just good times to be had by all. Seemed like everyone had a smile by the time they left. A couple new people as well, and just so fun times, right? And then, oddly enough, and accepting it because this is 4th of July weekend, that people probably had plans this weekend, and like specifically today with family and such, barbecuing, things like that to celebrate the 4th. I wasn't actually that surprised that a lot of people packed up last night.
That makes sense.
And so come this morning, it's all of, like I said, Mika and Legend downstairs playing. Beebs came this morning, packed up. I think Campette and her friend's stuff is still in the basement. Campo got here at like 5 or almost 6 in the morning too. Although I had the door locked, so he had to sneak his way in. But got here, and then he headed out to start a brisket and such. So it's basically down where, other than Unit 0, who's still asleep because he does hours where he starts at like middle of the night and then stays up till like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning or something. So I don't know when he'll emerge. But other than that, it's basically shut down, and nicely on top of it, pretty much cleaned up.
Even better. Oh man, the mess after a party can take longer than the party to clean sometimes.
Yeah,
I've been very
that's
fortunate. I
true.
say it every Game Fest that I am lucky that I have adults who party with me.
Yeah.
Because they are pretty good about putting things in the proper bins and places, and they're also pretty good at helping clean a bit as we go. It's nothing too major. I know I stayed up a bit on the Friday night. Part of me staying up till 4 something in the morning was I finally just started sorting stuff. I was like, I don't want to wake up to this. So all of the cups, all of the, red Solo cups with the gaming names on them and stuff, collecting the ones that migrate and dumping them and all that. And by the end of Friday night's thing, when I went to bed, it was actually fairly sorted. So
You and I are two of a kind there, sir, because I'm similar in that when I'm actually during a party, I'll sometimes disappear and for 15 minutes, people are like, where did you go? And I was like, oh, I just cleaned the kitchen. And they'll go through and it's like, yeah, it's completely clean. And they're like, why did you do that? We're at the party. I'm like, oh, because you didn't notice I was gone. And now I don't have to do it tomorrow. And then by the end of the night, I try to have the house back into a normal state. So that in the morning, when I'm hungover and I don't actually want to do anything, it's all done.
No, it is nice to not have to like worry about what it'll be. And come like the rest of this week, not tonight, but probably throughout the rest of the week in the evenings and stuff, I will slowly go amongst the house and okay, I'll vacuum today and I'll do this and just it'll be even more. But even right now, I feel pretty good about it. And I only had that I can observe or that I keep in mind right now one casualty, which is that my one of my dining room chairs, apparently after 15 plus years of service, fatigued itself enough that one of the legs split right across the top.
Like
the wood just
sounds like an Ernest keep.
and well, so it will come back to life. I just have to get some wood glue and the vices I have downstairs to put it all together and let it sit. So it will come back, but it was entertaining because we were playing Joking Hazard at the time, and Legend was sitting in it, and all of a sudden something, I don't know if he heard the crack or felt the shift, because he was just sitting in it. But he was like, hey, Wayne, I think I might have broke your chair. Right? And I was kind of like, what? Because he's still sitting in it, right? So I was like, I expected the arm, because it's so loosely on, to have like been pushed off or something.
Yeah,
Sometimes the bolts loosen over time, and I thought maybe I just retightened or it fell off. He gets up as I go over there, and the chair just collapses. And I go look, and sure enough, the leg right where all the bolts go through it are just ripped in half. And I was
Man, it's
like,
the worst thing when you're at somebody's house and you accidentally break some furniture or something, because you just feel so guilty, even though it's usually you didn't do anything wrong, right? I remember one time I went to Edinburgh to visit with family. Actually, it was me and the in-laws and such, and they had this. They knew a person who had this like hall and bedroom sort of building. It was I don't know whether it was like a meeting hall or what, but they had some spare rooms off the side and stuff, and they had this big hall in the middle that had all these big glass tables, and they were all sitting separately for like a cafe or breakfast type look. And we were like, oh, let's just push them all together so that we can, so that we can all sit and talk and have dinner together.
Yeah.
And so we pushed them all together, and I put in the last table in between two. And honestly, I was using barely any strength. I was just lining up, and two bits of glass touched perfectly like this, and it just shattered into a million pieces.
Oh,
Just everywhere. Like it exploded. It was a huge noise. And there was like 20 people there, and they all turned to look at me, and they saw me I was still sitting gingerly pushing it forward as it exploded, and they were like, how did that happen? And I was like, I don't know, I didn't mean to do it. It just happened. And they're like, don't worry about it. It's fine. These things happen. But
well, and that's the thing. That was the thing, right? And I told Legend as it happened, and he just because he felt so bad, right? I told him, I was like, dude, were you jumping up and down on my chair? No. Did you like slam it in behind you, and had you rocked back and were leaning on the back legs of it? Were you doing any of these things? He's like, no, I was just sitting here. I was like, exactly. You just happened to be the one who sat in it while it hit its limit. You didn't do anything to make me have a reason to be unhappy about what happened. And so, yeah, it's fine. It's fine, right? And, for all the other things, good or bad, an advantage of my handiness is I already have the plan on how I will remedy the issue and fix it, basically. So it's already like, yes, there's that moment of processing of like, well, here's something to add to the to-do list, but oh no. So that was the only
one of those things that could happen to anybody. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's probably a good thing it happened to somebody and it happened in a way that he wasn't injured himself, right?
Yeah, no, it just crack, stood up, it fell over. It was like, huh. Well, that was a thing, and so it's all good. But that was the one casualty. Nothing else an issue that I've seen so far. Seems fine. Everyone had a blast. Everyone enjoyed chatting, keeping up with each other, meeting each other again. Good varieties of food. And for one of the few times, my cheese dip is almost gone, so I won't be eating it all week.
Yay!
Aww.
My internals are thanking everyone for their participation.
I don't know, man. I think last year I got through quite a lot of that cheese dip. I was a big fan.
Oh, like I said, normally though I have at least a couple Tupperwares or big one left that for a solid this is lunch every day at work, kind of thing to finish it off because I don't want food to go to waste. Now it's mostly just chips. I do have some frozen goods, and then there's a kit that I think Bingo brought that we never got to. That'll be lunch. That are some ready-make chicken tacos or something, like soft tacos or something
nice.
like that.
Oh,
They actually look really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds tasty, yeah.
We also helped celebrate La Campette's birthday over it. And,
Hey.
so there's cake in there as well. But yeah, so it was a really good time, and I can tell you it was the necessary energy I needed. And I had at least a few people kind of comment that they thought they had done really well through the pandemic times, and have been slowly getting out and about and stuff. But that having come to Game Fest this weekend, or the Friday one, they were like, "No, I now realize this is what I needed."
Yeah.
Like, the energy of actual people around me all being jovial and having a good time and sharing in the experience.
Yeah,
is
not just hitting
more-
Costco without a mask. You actually need to feel the presence of people that you care about and actually
Right.
socialize with.
And
them,
that actual connection with people was much more meaningful for them. And so they were very thankful and just having a great time, which makes me feel good. And it's one of those few times I wasn't having to bounce everywhere to flit. I got to enjoy myself, even though I still bounced around and flitted, but I really enjoyed
Good.
myself.
You have a
So-
terrible habit of being a host. You are a really good host, but then you don't enjoy yourself as much as you could have if you were actually
Right.
partaking. And it's
So it did.
it makes me so stressed when I visit you because I'm like, God damn it, Wayne, stop hosting. Go and have fun and do something enjoyable. Have a drink, God damn it.
Nah, all was good. All was good. And like I said, all the right people showing up, so I was happy. Could have been more, but everyone who did had a great time. So that was Game Fest. We played games. There was a variety. A lot of Valheim was played. A lot of Hunt was played. Got some Rocket League in there. Got some Star Citizen. Did some competition with that. Did some War
So
Thunder.
you won something I saw, yeah.
Yeah, I won the Cutlass Black package that was in there, which, admittedly, I did not think I had much of a chance of, even though it's a ship that I really, of the things available, really kind of wanted. And because big shout out and thanks to both Ocampo and Asteroid Blues at large, our sister corp from VTW in Star Citizen, because they put together a lot of resources to help share like the wealth and get people in and experiencing the game more. Even though it's an alpha and we don't tell people to buy the game, it's a way to introduce others. And so they had a great package set up that was really hoping someone new would get. But we needed enough people to participate. In other words, it would have been like 3 people in the competition.
Yeah.
And the challenge is the packages that was raffled or given for the event was like a $150 package. And so that's fairly significant. So we wanted someone to have to work towards it. And so we did a 1v1 War Thunder tournament and found this cool bracket software that Campo found called, what's the site called? I have to look it up. But it was basically free sets up brackets. People log in and they get like assigned, through their emails, you've been challenged and here's the bracket you're in. And then the host can put everything and it breaks it down. So we had a double elimination bracket and went through. I've won first match and I got taken out. Went into the loser bracket, won all my loser bracket ones back up, and then took on the top bracket to win. And so I think my last fight was against, Rashek or Psycho. And so, I mean, we both wanted it. And the only reason I didn't feel so bad is because we both already have ships in the game. So neither of us were like the new package kind of thing where it would have given us access we didn't have. Let's go, right? And he was doing really well, but I just happened to get the edge on him and got the scores. And so got it. So now I have a Cutlass Black, which is awesome. I wasn't there later because then as we were letting my niece, who just had got the game, and Campo, thanks to him, gifted her a ship as well so that she could start playing. She was installing stuff, but we got afterwards a whole group of us together to showcase some of the bigger ships in the game and things are going on. And afterwards, while I was upstairs hosting again, they did a gifting of the new tank that's in the game. I forget which one it is. It's another pretty decent package or something. This new ground tank. And I want to say Dark Mauve might have won that one. I have to look again who actually got that one. But super cool to kind of encourage people to get around. And it's always fun to get a large number of us together at once. Excuse me. And so that was kind of the gaming that occurred. I'm trying to think if there's any other real stories to be had from Game Fest. I think that was the main things. Oh,
Play
come on,
earlier when
video.
you said that there was only one casualty. I was like, oh no, did somebody like drink too much and have to get their stomach pumped or something? Like, that's what I was expecting.
Right. Thankfully, no. Thankfully, no. Although we have had events like that happen before. Let's see. Let me do
That would
that. Make
happen
it
occasionally.
unhappy. I'm like breaking things on the show. There we go. Let's go back in. Yay. Okay, cool. I bumped a cable as I've got things resorted on the desk, and the capture card hiccuped. No Kuro, nothing on the screen door. Like I said, no messes to really be, cleaned up this time. Which was
No urination. That's good.
yeah, nothing too bad. Maybe there's something hiding from me or anything, but it's all good now. Also, let's see, lots of Rock Band again. I was trying to think if there's any other memorable must-mention things. Other games, like Mika said, Left 4 Dead, we played as a group. We actually got enough people to play Versus, which was awesome, because I love the 4v4 Versus mode on Left 4 Dead.
I like playing as a zombie.
Yeah, zombie, being able to, what is it? Grief your friends via zombie attacks.
Yeah.
And it challenged me because, man, normally I do good at that, but Mika and Legend and their team stomped us. And so put us in our place where it was like, gosh, they were able to coordinate and just sit us down.
Nice. That sounds
Because
fun.
it was those two, my brother and my niece, against like myself and Kazuyuri and Crimson, and I think Psycho or whatever, all of us playing, and we got smoked. It just hurt. Sitting there, I'm like, nope. They whooped us at Left 4 Dead for sure. Just kind of the variety of games. I'm sure people are playing some others. I think Lock Camp Bet's group was doing Prop Hunt and stuff like that at the end. And we found a cheap game that was actually surprisingly fun called Speedrunners. On Steam. It was like $3.50 or something. The whole premise, it's like a side-scroll little racing thing where you're a character who runs around the world through a mapped-out kind of course. And there's a little speed boost and just power-up stuff, but you run as a group. And the group, it follows kind of like in any multiplayer game where it'll split based on how many people, are there. It kind of splits out, but they always keep the screen on whoever is in lead. And if you fall out of the screen, you die.
Oh my god!
And so it's
a
multi-person.
It's competitive.
Yeah, it's a multi-person. Yeah, the knockoff of whoever's in the end race, and it goes around the same course, kind of multiple times. It's like side scroll where you're running up and jumping and sliding, going around obstacles, and there's multi paths as you go. If you first person can hit a path and hit a button, and it'll switch something that closes the door, and makes the person go over a slower path. And so it's really competitive, and you get little power-ups like Mario Kart style, where you can like hit a button and shoot a power-up that may like blow someone up or drop some crates behind you, or probably one of the ones we use most effectively, at least that Earth and I did, was a little grappling hook who would grab whoever in front of them and switch spaces. It would like use their momentum to pull them back and slingshot you forward. And you do that at the right time, and you can throw them back out of the frame, and boom, they die. So it's a great like fighting, competitive, little really quick game that we played that my niece found. Or actually my brother found and gifted to my niece, and I bought. And dang it, if the proud moment and yet grr of it when your niece just shreds you both constantly on a little like precision game like that.
Yeah, games.
No, my niece plays WoW. That is what my niece plays. Wolf Dragon plays TBC Classic.
I've started experiencing this as well.
Shush, Ken. Because once I got back into like Rocket League, I was smoking people. But man, if
that's not an immediate, half a second reaction kind of game, is it?
I don't know what you're talking about. And so, but it's like I said, the proud moments of doing like watch the youth come up to play.
I've been playing with.
Trust me, I am rubbing my hands together for when that's going to happen for me.
I openly state to people that the challenge I have is knowing that these are the moments I have to put all my effort into the uncle aspect of it, since I can't guarantee I'll ever have the opportunity myself. And so I did the full-on uncle thing this weekend where I taught her how to drive stick in my Miata. And I helped her last night this morning install, because Uncle Joe and Uncle Wayne looked at her gaming situation on the computer that I built out of trash parts that works pretty damn good, and saw when she'd boot, and it's like, wow, that takes you 4 minutes to get into Windows?
Oh my god.
That's pure pain. Oh, wait. What? La Campette has her friends and family discount at Micro Center right now? Huh. Quick trip on a Friday morning. And so last night we installed her new 1 terabyte Samsung 870 SSD as her boot drive / fast gaming drive.
That's a huge improvement.
Yep.
And yeah, it went from a boot time literally of minutes. Like you click and you just say, no, Windows is up. Nope. The icons haven't populated yet. Still sitting there, right? You're like, but you can move the mouse. Uh-huh. And my niece is just like, no, it's not ready. Nope, it's not ready. And I'm sitting there going come on. Yeah, so the next time it was booted, it was like, what'd that take? 20 seconds? Okay, right? So, and getting through her 15-year-old, I don't know if the right term is stoicism or not, but her limited expression of joy, where you'd say, how is it? And she'd be like, eh.
Yeah,
that would be her expression of happiness. To actually get her to smile and kind of go oh, that was quick. It was success! Great uncle moments in life we have impressed upon the child. And she saw the light. So, yeah. Anyhow, all of that was good.
A thick barrier of emotions in the way.
It's just fun moments. And now they're road tripping back, and I wish them well. Hopefully all will be good, because Earth has taken her back home so that they can enjoy fireworks tonight in Lincoln.
Nice.
But like I said, got to do that as well. So it was a great weekend. All right, I have taken up far too much to show.
I want to deviate too, because I like deviations. So I want to deviate too. I was doing.
Is this going to be a standard one?
Adult Lego. Is that I don't know what kind of joke I'm trying to make out here. Do you make I don't know, sex toys out of the Lego or something, like handcuffs? How does that work?
No. When you go to IKEA, when you go to IKEA and you buy a product that's supposed to be for, grown-ups, and you have to put it together, and you get an instruction booklet like you do a set of Legos, and you put it together like it's Lego. And
so you did your taxes.
Sometimes you have extra parts, and sometimes you don't put things together in exactly the right order. But it's Lego, so it's all part of the fun. So the master bedroom in our apartment has this funky alcove situation between a set of French doors and one corner of the master bedroom near where I sleep. And so we were originally looking at maybe buying a prefab. Oh, sorry, Wayne, you're.
Oh, no, I just said I'll be right back. Continue.
Okay. Yeah. We were looking at maybe doing a prefab solution, but it doesn't really fit. Moreover, not only is the space of the alcove weird or not, it's non-standard. We have really tall ceilings in our place.
Okay.
3.2 meters.
That is very tall, yeah.
Yeah, so they're very high, especially by Oslo standards. They're super, super high. Okay. So then we were talking about maybe getting something custom built, but then the plague hit, and you're just hard to get anything like that done, right? So finally, given our family situation, where we decided to pull the trigger on some modular furniture or modular wardrobes from IKEA. And we bought enough of them to fill the space, but as I said, the space in the alcove width-wise is non-standard. So there's no combination of 50 centimeter, 75 centimeter, and 100 centimeter wardrobes that you can put together to fill the space. So you're either stuck, like, the best you could do is well, essentially what we did. No, you could do a little bit better. You could get to 200. You could get it to the point where you had like 12 centimeters left over.
Okay.
Right? That would just be empty space. So we went for a solution where there was going to be a little bit closer to 40 centimeters left over. And then we took the IKEA furniture and modified it so that it would fit in that space.
Okay.
So imagine taking your kit of Lego and wanting to build something slightly different, and instead of going out and buying individual Lego to make it work, you just cut a row off one of your existing Legos. Like, this Lego is 2 things too far. I'm gonna go get the wire cutters and chop the plastic.
Cool. Okay, so truly modular then.
Yeah. So they are. It's taken us 3 days. We started Friday afternoon, and it took. I'm sorry, it took 2 days. Because it took all of Friday afternoon and into Friday evening and all day yesterday. But we are done. We now have wardrobes that we can put our clothes in that are anchored to the wall and anchored to each other, and these things, no joke, are huge. Like, they are half a meter taller than I am.
So what's the time till B day?
6 weeks.
That's coming fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh man, what have you guys got left to do now?
We're gonna do a set of shelves in the living room, and then we're gonna list a bunch of our existing furniture on a website called Finn in Norway, and essentially all that stuff is gonna be free if you come and get it. So, like, we've got a second couch that we don't need anymore, and we have.
Right.
I have a second office chair that I don't need anymore, and we're, what's our living room solution also has a TV stand that's going to be mounted to the wall.
That's an
so we're going to have a TV stand that we don't need anymore, and some other things. So they're all going to get listed hopefully this week as free if you come and get it. And so,
that's fantastic. Good for you guys. That's much better than just throwing it out into the curb.
Yeah, or the other thing that we're thinking about doing is figuring out if somebody will take the stuff as donations. Right now, the couch I don't think that's gonna happen, but because they're notoriously hard to get rid of.
Yeah,
but
it's like inheriting somebody else's couch. You never know if you need to like get steam cleaned or if there's any sort of station sitting outside.
Yeah.
Or so.
Yeah. But the bookshelves and the TV bench and the extra office chair, that all should be relatively easy to get rid of. And then after we're done with the doing the shelves in the living room with the TV stuff, then it's setting up the baby room, but we've got a little bit more time to do that, which means moving some more stuff around the living room, getting my desk out of my office and into the living room. So the acoustics on my mic are going to change pretty significantly because I'm going to be in a way bigger space.
Do you get some sound panels or something, sir?
In a few months. So yeah, it's I feel very adult, and I've come to realize that handiness is a perishable skill.
Ooh, interesting.
What do you mean by perishable?
You lose it if you don't use it. Right?
Oh, I see.
I am generally unhandy to begin with, but I seriously haven't felt this all thumbs in 25 years. No joke.
I feel you, sir. That's me all over. I'm the kind of guy who needs to call a plumber because of a blocked toilet. Like, or
Oh, see,
I wouldn't even realize what's wrong with a light bulb that's not screwed in properly.
see, that's interesting to hear from you guys because I feel like that's my big thing. Is I'm a very handy person. I do a ton of things myself. You know, I have projects constantly like, oh, I need to go finish removing that stump that's in my yard, and I've been slowly sawing away at it. I need to go drill some holes so I can try to. I can't legally burn it out, but I can try to make it mush with some right chemicals. But like that, or you know, all just the little projects around the house I'm constantly doing, where it's like, oh yeah, I do this, I do that, and then like my brother was saying like, oh, when we got close to here, my car started shimmying. I was like, all right, well, we should listen to it and let's go so I can help you figure out what's up with it. It's just like the constant thing for me.
I need to ask you questions about car stuff at some point, Wayne. My car's making some weird noises now that I think about it.
Happy to. But that's the thing. I actually appreciate that a lot of my friend groups see me as a resource to, I mean, computer stuff constantly has always been a thing. And it's kind of a generic thing. Anyone who's built their own computer, generally the computer nerd, like you have a circle of family and friends who know you who all come to you to build the computer. It's like, hey.
I have friends and family who still think I just got a degree in fixing computers. And I'm like, dude.
Dude, you gotta make a shirt or something that says like something like in depth about AI and machine learning and something.
They don't
and then at the
understand.
end
They think
says,
I'm still a student. I'm like, I'm not a student, man. I've not been a student for years. I teach students. Like, I'm on the opposite end of that now.
I said, you've got to say something that's like, I'm sorry, my degree in blah 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 blah, right, and application of this and this theoretical science, right, means no, I won't fix your computer or something, right?
Yeah, as soon as you say my degree in, they stop listening. They go, and they just hear fixes computers. Can help you with your printer.
Oh man, I have heard of that so many times, and the only thing that saves me is, and generally I enjoy doing computer work, so like hardware fixing stuff, so it doesn't bother me much. But I know how that feels.
No,
yes, Todd?
Because I've had so many people hand me like their kid's computer, and and every single time I get asked to do that, I'm like, okay, I need to make this clear. I am going to find something that you don't like on this. Like that's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
and
no.
and there's no good outcome. If I don't tell you, I feel like I've broken some ethical rule. If I do tell you, I feel like a creep who's looked through a kid's computer and found something weird. I'm like, I just don't do it anymore. I'm just like, I don't like to do it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, just Google it or go on iTunes.
Oh, that's so funny.
Guys, a bit in a way.
Oh, so I've had that same thing where I've told people, it's like, okay, you want me to do this, this, or this, right? Well, that means I'm going to have to get into this depth with your computer. The first thing I ran into that was a guy who lived across the street, a neighbor who did security camera work and security for construction sites. And one of the businesses was because he had all the cameras set up to be wirelessly remote access from a computer. And so he would give through the internet, he'd give his security guards on site a laptop with internet access. And their job was to patrol a construction site all night. And inevitably, every month or two, he would come to me and say, so Wayne, I got these 2 or 3 laptops that do not work, that are so slow, that have all these pop-ups, all these things. Could you help? And I'd always go back. It's like, well, I'll tell you what the problem is, and yes, I'll fix it for you. Do you want me to give you the gory details, or you just want me to give it back to you so it works, and we'll try a little harder to make it harder for someone to do this again?
Yeah.
You know, like, because I can tell you,
it's funny stuff. Sometimes it's just gross, and I'm like, man, I did not want to know that.
Oh,
like,
there were so many times where I didn't realize those search terms existed.
Yeah, here's one that I'm not. I'll give no clues to who this was because I don't even. I've not talked to this person so many years. But anyway, this person had a number of children, and one of the children had a laptop that kept breaking, and you know the parent kept saying to me like in a sort of hinting way like, oh, so and so's laptop's broken again. And I was like, well, that sucks, you know, and then moving on to a different topic quickly.
I'm done.
But one time it failed, right? And they were like, could you fix it? I'll give you like, you know, £20. I was like, wow, okay, well, you know, I could do with that money. I'm a student or whatever. So yeah, sure. Let's do it. Just drop it off and I'll, you know, I'm not promising anything. Give me a week and I'll see what I can do. But you know, if it's too broken, I'll just wipe it. So just so you know, that is the likely end result here is that I just wipe the thing. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, fine. That's not ideal, but whatever. And I get it. I managed to get in. I go in safe mode, or I'll use some like Linux boot to go in and like play with the registries and stuff and see if I can do anything there. But this one loads up okay, and I get in. I work out the password quickly. I get in, and their search history isn't okay. Use the clue that I'm grossed out, and I'm not going to say any of the gross details. I'm just going to name some completely innocent things, and then you can work out why.
I
it's
already
gross.
know where this is going.
They typed their favorite search terms had to do with different types of echidna, which is the Sonic the hedgehogs.
Oh, yeah.
And they were prolific on DeviantArt.
Oh no!
Wow. Wow.
No.
Well, like I say,
And
nothing on the nothing surprises me.
They were like 13, man. They were
Nothing
like 13,
surprises me.
And I was like,
But
this
that's
is
new.
gross. I don't
That's
want to
new.
know about like. That was my last one. I was like, I ain't going any further with this. I'm never gonna fix a laptop again. Like, I don't want this.
Okay, now I'm morbidly curious.
Careful what you look for. Look up Sanic goes no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sanic
you know what?
goes to Hogstown. No.
Did you know that people find like male characters who are pregnant fascinating? Did you know that was like a thing?
But I do know
thought
that
was
it
a-
exists, and I've seen some really
are you,
bizarre
are you sure
drawings
it's
and
real
interesting
characters
questions.
that are pregnant, or if it was inflation?
Oh no, there's oh gosh.
don't
I don't
know.
want to
I
even
don't-
get
I
into
don't- I
the
don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I do not want to start describing any of the ridiculousness I have seen. It goes places that, as I like to say, while I don't often judge others, I often have found things that I know are not for me.
Yeah. Like, I get you're that age, you're exploring your, emerging sexuality or whatever. Can you do that, like, without handing me the device that you use? Like, can I not look at that? That would be lovely. I would really enjoy not seeing that. That is pretty much my only life goal, is not to see those laptops again.
Oh man! Like I said, I have been in those shoes. I have seen those things, and I've been like, "Yep." I've had people where they're like, "I desperately need these photos recovered." I said, "I can do it, but if I'm going to check that these photos are recovered, no, I'm going to open a couple of the photos, make sure it's not just the names there, that you can actually access the photo." And they're like, "No, it's vacation photos. Okay, it should be fine." I was like, and then I said, "So I might see some of your photos," and they were like, And I was like, because they're your vacation photos. I got you. I'm just, so you tell me. And they were like, could you just tell me those programs again that you recommend I use to fix it? Here you go.
Yeah.
And later got the yep, I got it fixed. It's like, all right, cool.
The other rule I've implemented is I will wipe your machine and I will not look at it. You don't need to tell me the password or anything. I am just going to wipe it without doing anything else, and I'm sure that'll fix the underlying problem. And they're like, "Oh, I got some data." I'm like, "I can't. I'm not your man. I can't help."
Nope.
There you go. There you go.
I ain't gonna. I'm not fishing that out at all.
Fishing is the word. Fishing is the
Oh
word.
boy. Oh boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
I again, if you're a computer person and done things, you have probably run into family or friends that have asked to that level of stuff.
It's worse
So,
when
yes.
it's family as well. At least when it's friends, you can be like, "All right, well, I can choose to see you or not."
Exactly. Anyhow, what else do we need to catch on before we start talking about today's topic?
Wait, that wasn't today's topic? Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to go
No.
down that rabbit hole.
Not,
then. Oh,
no,
sorry.
not at all.
Why you
Not at
two?
all.
If you, why the? I don't even know how to describe that role. The real would there be a? There's got to be a thing for actual job titles or job titles, but what they really mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk about data recovery. It's like, wow, you didn't realize all the fetishes that exist in the world,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah,
will
data
now.
recovery is learning to keep a secret. Can you keep a secret?
Oh boy. Which is why don't bring your data recovery products to your big box stores like Best Buy or Apple.
No.
Because notoriously,
No.
we've seen very famous cases where your personal details have gotten leaked. Not even data recovery, your system, your computer in general. God, they've leaked so many people's private data when they were supposed to actually go in there and fix it.
Well, I get it. If you're paid such a low wage and you see, and there's some a-hole customer comes in and is like very rude, and you're like, oh, look at all this. I could ruin their life.
Well,
You're
no,
like,
this has normally been someone who very attractive customer comes in.
Yeah, that's just,
I need help
yeah.
with the system, and then later find that,
Yep.
oh, look at this image that exists on the internet now.
Mm.
Anyhow,
That's bad.
all right. It's America Day here in the United States and around the world, whether they want to admit it or not. And in doing so, let us talk about some of the things we love the most, which is hotly debated news and journalism, because that's what we
God.
love.
Yeah, that's right. That's
'Cause
that's what we love.
Because we love that whole Gamergate thing,
let's
right?
celebrate.
Also,
Let's
yeah.
celebrate America by discussing at length what a dumpster fire the American media has become.
So this is preempted specifically on the conversation, a focus on recent article or thing announced on the website Kotaku. And this is based on that they have new leadership, specifically in as their, let's see, this is going to be lead editor, or is it a different role than that?
This is
Chief editor,
editor
something like that.
in chief.
Yeah.
Editor in chief. So the key piece
Yep.
is that Patricia Hernandez, who originally worked at Kotaku some 6 years ago, I believe, as a
Polygon
deputy.
for that.
Well, as a deputy editor, so has come back to Kotaku. Has worked at Polygon in the stints in between, worked at various other jobs, and has just recently been picked up as the chief editor for Kotaku, the gaming reviews, news, tips, and more website.
So you didn't think it could get worse than the weasel Steven Totillo being the editor in chief of Kotaku, and yet somehow we've found another rock layer, and it's worse.
So I have been very much out of touch with most gaming sites, and generally speaking, when I look up something to do with like games journalism, I don't particularly care where I get it from because generally speaking, it's politicless. You know, like I'm usually looking up something like what are the overall reviews, like a meta review of all reviews for this game. That's the kind of thing I'll Google, or like what's going on at E3 at the moment. Like that kind of stuff, I don't particularly care if it's from Kotaku or it's from IGN or if it's from some random dude on Facebook or whatever. I don't really mind,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So
So-
you can't, or at least I couldn't, find the article that I just linked in the chat on American Kotaku, but I can find it on Australian Kotaku. The article that I just linked in the chat is the kind of stuff that Patricia Hernandez is capable of. This is the kind of journalist she is. She is. It's about 125 words from an E3 presentation in 2013 where they played Killer Instinct in an obviously unscripted bit where like a game developer for Killer Instinct was playing against a community manager for the Xbox team. And so so basically what they did is they wanted to show off moves and stuff. So they had this
controversy, yeah.
Yeah, we remember when it
So-
actually heard, but this is her take on it,
Okay,
right?
but here's the thing. So the context of this is they have a kayfabe match. And if you don't understand what a kayfabe match is, it's pretty obvious that the game dev is going to win the first match and the community manager is going to win the second match, and then they're either not going to have a third match or they're actually going to play the third match, right? So there's this, but outside of that, there's no script, right? So they're just playing a fighting game against each other. And it's this awkward silence. And at some point on the video, the community manager says something like, "Oh, you're really whipping my behind," or something like, "You're really giving it to me," or something. She said something. I don't think it was giving it to me. I think it might have been something like, "You're whipping my behind," or something like that. And in response to that, he says, "That's okay. Just relax. It'll all be over soon." Right? what and my question about this is, what is he going to say? He doesn't have lines. He can't trash talk her the way fighting game arcade people would trash talk her, because it really wouldn't look good to be up on stage in an official Xbox event going, God, you really suck.
I seem to remember us at the time saying something along the lines of that it was in poor taste, them saying that phrase, because it's clearly a kind of got rapey themes to it. But at the same time, I think it has been blown out of proportion, because he also probably didn't mean it that way. So
we talked about it in the sense that kind of talk happens a lot, and I will admit that I argued to the point that the term itself was being overplayed towards a sexual position versus what the term by itself means. And so, well, yeah, it may be ill-advised. There's a reason it exists in the venue of people competing directly with each other and having advantage over the other.
Right. Right.
And so it's not just in gaming, it's in sports, it's in, competitive everything. That's when trash talk happens can get to degrees that, if taken out of context, could be thought horribly. And even in context are meant to be less than wonderful, because otherwise it has no effect. Anyhow,
and this is sort of, that's the underlying groundwork over my assertion of this whole thing, which is there were 15 more important things happening on stage, but because Patricia Hernandez doesn't know anything about arcades or fighting games or Killer Instinct or trash talk or competitiveness, she couldn't write about anything. Any of those things, which, again, there are a whole bunch of really important discussions to be had around all of that stuff. She took the low-hanging fruit to play to Kotaku's home audience and try to destroy a guy's life as collateral damage, right? Because essentially what she's saying is the game dev for Killer Instinct made a rape joke. Which, no.
Again, it depends. I mean, I don't think we can see inside his mind as to what he was thinking at the time. And like I said, I think it was some poorly phrased choice of words.
Okay.
Does he deserve to lose his livelihood over it? I mean, he should certainly get some sort of reprimand, because that we can't have that sort of thing in society without some kind of, that shouldn't really be saying rapey things like that.
Because the people who put this presentation together were too stupid to realize that you either give these people lines to say while they're doing this, or you don't do the goddamn demo on stage.
Yeah, it could certainly be better scripted, but it doesn't change the fact of what he said was pretty racist.
So he's okay. So you're how tight of a needle do you want this guy to thread? He's up on stage. He's a game dev, not a marketing person. He's being asked to play this game in a demo in a kayfabe style against somebody where he's got to win. There's this awkward silence because they're playing a video game. He has no lines. He's prompted by somebody else saying, wow, you're really beating me down, or kicking my butt, or whatever it was to prompt him. Okay, give me the line, Ken, that he's supposed to say.
I personally would have said anything if I was unsure. I mean, it's better to say nothing than to say something that could be
more awkward silence.
His job was to fill the space with words. That's part of his job on stage, and he did.
When you're more carefully about them.
He was in the moment of concentrating on playing a game.
I understand all that. I get it. I get the pressure of being on stage and everything. I understand.
Well, I'll put it this way.
It wasn't the wisest thing to say, is it? Clearly.
Of course it wasn't the wisest thing, but to say he should be reprimanded or something negative to be done to him for him trying to fill in the moment by playing a fighting game like he probably plays in the office every day, I think is putting too much onus on him and too much negativity. If anything should have been done, it should have been like an acknowledgement, which I believe happened, from the devs saying like, oh, yep, that wasn't cool. Right. We don't support this. Yeah. Done. But to ask that something negative be done to him for him just saying what was coming to mind at the time while playing a fighting game, I think would be a bit harsh, especially when it's not his job or brand to be a presenter. And so that's where anyone who was asking for him to suffer,
some kind of sensitivity training or something. That seems like an appropriate measure.
Again, I think all of that is a placation to the masses for something that he should not suffer for what happened in the moment, because I don't think it was nearly as blown out as it was.
This is why people like Matt Taylor are allowed to be destroyed, right? Matt Taylor gets destroyed on the most important day of his career, and people don't lose their jobs over it. Right? Because Patricia Hernandez should have lost her job over that article and didn't. Right? She became an editor. And now she's failed upward to being editor-in-chief. Which is really what this is why I want to talk about it. Because I want to mock her because she sucks, but now she's editor-in-chief of a major video game website. And they have one job to do. Buy, don't buy. And that's it. The rest of it's just art, smoke-filled art coffee house crap. All of the rest of it.
So what's that guy doing now? What's this developer doing now?
I have no idea. It doesn't matter. He could be Emperor of the Universe, as far as I know.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't think he lost his job over this. The point is, the article should have never been written in the first place. Like, talk about any of the 15 things up there that are relevant to the gaming industry, and not. Like, if it really has to be about the trash talk about the fact that trash talk doesn't really have a place outside the arcades. I don't agree with that argument, but I'll at least buy it.
Well, it's an argument that can be made that you can discuss. Whether the reality exists is a whole other piece.
And again,
but to get back to the journalistic part, right?
Stupid definition of gaming that competitiveness doesn't matter, and so the psych out doesn't matter, but it absolutely does, because video games are competitive, because it's all about winning.
I don't think anyone's arguing that point. I think they're arguing about the fact that it was a rape joke. I think having a rape joke is the problem here.
Okay, then fire the people that didn't give the guy lines to...
They didn't force him to say that.
Give the guy lines to say. Don't get pissed at the guy who's got nothing to say and is trying to vamp and isn't trained to do that. Like, I'm sorry, the guy who tried to fill time, he is not at fault at all in any of this. Like, there are a million people to blame for this. I'm not blaming the guy who's at the controller, ever, for that. I'm also not blaming the lady who dropped the line that induced the dude to say something either. Like, it's not her fault either.
I don't think she forced him to say that. And I still think he could have thought more carefully instead.
Well, of course he could have, but Ken,
he was on an event, right?
But Ken, you're Monday morning quarterbacking it. You're Monday morning quarterbacking it, saying that he obviously should have done differently. And it's one thing to say that, yeah, he could have done it better, but I think the real consideration and talk should be, but how bad was it really what he did? What was his intent? Things like that versus the would have, could have, should have, what ifs. And that's the challenge I have with this piece. Now, regardless of that specific situation, we get into the discussion about the journalistic aspect of what someone like Patricia Hernandez did or didn't do with it. There were a lot of people who had various takes on that issue, as well as others. And it's interesting what, Todd, you brought up about, your thoughts on Patricia specifically, and this being an example of what she has done in the past that you believe leads it as her not being qualified or not being the kind of person you think should have this kind of role in journalism around gaming. She did present this article or this conversation on Kotaku about the fact that she's in charge now, and has some things she's stating in this whole article. Please feel free to read through this for the
State of
whole
the Union
thing.
Or
But
inaugural address.
She starts off by saying, "Hello, Kotaku, we meet again, but this time nobody can stop me." Then says, I kid, truthfully. I've been avoiding writing this post, the one that acknowledges I'm back and also I'm in charge now. At first this was easy. Being hired 2 weeks before E3 meant I had little time to do anything but plan for the show, but now it's weird to keep publishing stuff without announcing myself more officially, so here I am, and this is it. And goes into saying, go through like this next one to get a stage for what she is bringing to talk about what she believes her role and what she'll be doing at Kotaku is. Her next paragraph saying, it's a scary proposition to write this post because it means laying out my vision for the site, and writing it down like this means that you know what it is that I want to do, but more crucially, get to judge if I'm living up to the standards that I set out. That's terrifying, because what I want for Kotaku isn't just ambitious. Oh yeah, okay. Of course, I want more for readers. Of course, I want to publish fearless writing, criticism, and reporting. And of course, I want to foster a community where everyone feels welcome. Somehow, that's the easy part. Many of these things are a continuation of what Kotaku is already known for. And then the next line says, but also, I want to dismantle and redefine what a video game website can be. I do not like what I see. Where to even begin? And then gets into a discussion about what she sees as the current state of video game journalism and what she wants to see change with Kotaku.
And let's be fair. Some of the stuff that she talks about, with a little bit of, once I get over the emotions of the fact that the least deserving person I could think of off the top of my head to run a major video game website is now running a major video game website. Some of the stuff she talks about is annoying, right? Like, it's part of the reason why I don't trust any video game website, right? Like, if I need a review on a video game, I'll go to Yahtzee or Zero Punctuation, right? To get an idea of whether or not a game is any good. Like, if he talks favorably about an aspect of a video game, and I go, ooh, I know I like that kind of thing. Like, that's usually enough of endorsement for me to take a good long look at something, right? But as a rule, I don't use any of these other websites, right? And part of the reason why I don't use any of these other websites are things that she talks about, right? She talks about how they have to be part of the hype cycle for every new release. And she talks about how she talks about having to play funny games with the SEO gods.
Of course. It's kind of a requirement for journalism, sadly.
In this new environment, and there's a problem with that, and it should be looked into, and we are utterly ill-equipped to do it, because the people who would know enough about how to fix it are never going to win public office. They just aren't, right? So, you'd have to find that sort of perfect storm of charismatic enough and technically savvy enough to be able to win public office, and then know which committees to get onto, or which departments to become the head of, to be able to, like, fix that kind of thing, right? Because the problem is a systemic one, relative to digital advertising and search engine optimization and pay for clicks and all that kind of stuff, right? It's one of those things where you can't just fix part of it; you have to fix the whole thing at once, kind of thing. Because if you only fix one part of it, then all of these big media companies will find a new workaround, or Google will find a workaround before you can fix the rest, right? Because they have more and smarter people, essentially, right?
So yeah, she does bring up some of these conversations about kind of this what she sees as the challenges of gaming journalism in today, and kind of how it seems to her that many sites are just chasing the market in a way of what is the newest release about to come out, and this cycle of what basically publishers are putting out there to say, here, hype this up. And she makes a key point, and I actually like a lot of the ideas that she's kind of talking towards about, games continuing to exist beyond when they're launched. And so that there's also potentially a lot of stories to be covered about the people and the communities and things that grow up around games. And as games continue to exist for lengths of time, the people who continue to play them and change over time themselves. So the communities that play them, the games as they mature and change, things like that, and other aspects of gaming besides just potentially, following or talking about the new games coming up and reviewing the one that just launched, kind of thing. She believes that there are stories and news or articles to be written about a lot more around the overall gaming community. Which I could see that. There are a lot of things that happen. There's no reason people can't write articles and find interesting things to convey about them. So I can see a lot of what she's bringing forth from there as being compelling towards whatever it is her direction is beyond just those kind of reviews. I do want to give us a chance to take a break and refresh. But prior to doing so, and I'm sure we'll reference this article that she wrote some more, because it has tidbits in there that help us maybe see and understand her point of it was to share this is her vision for what Kotaku could go forth under her new direction. So to see some more of that. But to have some things in there where, and this will be a bit colorful, but one article's here thing, like speaking further in about some of the problems and what she wants to see or try to find differently, says, I do not think this latent yet ongoing, I'd have to get into the above about anger, but it says that, okay, vying for the relevance versus dwindling time is sometimes only the start. Writers, especially those with marginalized identities, often have to grapple with nonstop anger. And this is meaning they're dealing with the anger from the community, as she's saying. Anger over suggesting that video games reflect the real world in any way, shape, or form. Anger that we get paid to do something many people would gladly do for free. Anger stoked by influencers who need you to believe game journalists are awful, and they alone have your interests at heart. Anger fueled by 4 years of constant propaganda that mainstream media is fake news and not to be trusted. And anger that the news we report sometimes doesn't present video games and its communities in a positive light to the wider public. She then says, and I'm just going to go to these last two and then we will take a break. I do not think this latent yet ongoing anger comes from the majority of our intended or presumed audience. Really, it is likely not even statistically significant compared to the millions of readers who read our work daily and love what we do. But harm does not require an army. All it takes is one a-hole going out of their way to ensure a writer sees their bigoted screed. There's always at least one. I do not want to tell my writers to grow thicker skin, though inevitably they do. I want the world to be a kinder place. It shouldn't require bravery to write about effing video games. And so that's kind of capturing some of the stuff she sees.
It should require bravery to write about video games the way you want to write about video games. Patricia.
So, we will come back. I'll let you people, if you'd like, you people, our audience, to spend some time if you want to peruse the article itself in its entirety as we take a quick break here. I'm going to play, maybe it's appropriate, a Final Fantasy V Remix Boss Key from OC Remix. And it'll be about 3.5 minutes. Refresh some drinks, use the restroom for the Ionuses in the world, and we'll be back to dig in to a little bit more about what we might see from Kotaku and whether it's good, bad, or different, or does it matter? So we'll see. We'll get into that as we get out of this. We'll be back right after this.
to Show X on btwproductions.com.
Alrighty, everybody. Hopefully you feel nice and rejuvenated, and look at the love of everyone's favorite companion.
I'm doing the rest of the show as a character, so that I am absolved of any legal ramifications for the things that I say. And
So
to
this is
answer
gonna-
Unit Zero in the chat, how could you say least deserving? Do you know these people? I know her work. I know the work sucks. I know that. I know that there are 1,000 people out there that would beat your ass to do her job, would do it better, and would do it for less money. I know I could probably do that job because I wrote for a video game website for 18 months, and I didn't write 100-word garbage articles like she did in 2013. So, yeah, actually, I think I can. I think I can say she's least deserving. You have one job to do. One and only one job. Here's a new game on the market. Buy. Don't buy. Here's a games company that treats their employees like absolute garbage. Should you continue to buy their products? Here's a games company that does really shady crap like loot boxes. Should you continue to buy their products? It's not hard. Right? I've done it.
Well, so I will ask the question, though, Todd. I mean, that is I think, a way that gaming journalism and coverage can be done. But is there enough room out there in the media space for a group to choose what kind of stories they want to portray about gaming that go beyond or are not just including reviews and things like pointing out the shady practices or ways people are gaining money from, their consumers? That is it okay for them to go and put forth their opinions, their thoughts, that some things are underrepresented, or that there are aspects of plot design or character representation that could be considered problematic for certain audiences? Okay. Is it okay to also have those discussions?
Of course. Sure, you can, on a semi-annual, annual, or biannual basis, write the, female male armor, as in MAIL, not MALE. Female male armor, still sucks, right?
No, I don't think that needs to be. I mean, in the end, it's a business, right? It needs to come down to how much money they're making from writing certain articles, right? That is generally what's going to be one of the main drivers behind this. And so let's just remove the whole, generally speaking, companies under capitalism are evil part of it, because I don't want to talk about that, because that would take up the whole show. So, already acknowledging that they are profit-based, I think it's acceptable for an organization to even exclusively write about issues of gender or race or sexes or sexualities or religion or wherever they damn well please. It's journalism. They have the freedom to do so, right? So they can do so if they so please. I think the question from earlier was, did that specific instance, was it ethical to do so for them to bring it up? Were they right to bring it up? Did they bring up a valid point? And all those things are perfectly reasonable. But whether they should be spending their time doing that, that's entirely up to them. That's really just a matter of, like whether you as a reader would bother ever reading their articles that are like that. And for you, I think that's obviously going to be a no, Todd. You're not gonna read their articles. And I don't know if there's any move they could have made at this point that would make you want to read their articles anyway, right? You already weren't a fan of Kotaku, right?
No, I haven't been a fan of Kotaku for a long time.
Right, you've already said you read other gaming journalism stuff. So does this mean that they're possibly filling a void that to other people that you don't fill?
What the vacuum? I'm sorry, Ken. Finish your point.
No, I was practically done. Go ahead.
Okay, the void that's not currently being filled by Games Radar, Eurogamer, Polygon, Rock Paper Shotgun, IGN, Destructoid, like every other gaming website on the planet that's not TechRaptor or Niche Gamer, and even TechRaptor sort of sold its soul that way a little bit so that people on Steam reviews would say nice things about them, right? I mean, there was a period of time when TechRaptor was fearless, and you really had freedom to write anything you wanted to. Um, but I maybe it's that way again. But there was a period of time, like a bunch of the stuff that I wrote that was really, really important to me got this scarlet letter because it was political and not in the correct way. I was an ideologically non-compliant writer in the internet space, so this is a little emotional for me, maybe, and maybe I'm too close to it. Because I think this job of writing about video games is really, really easy. I think writing about technology is harder because you have to be a domain expert in a lot of cases to be able to do it well. Um, and I guess that's kind of my problem with this. Like, that's fine if you wanna turn every single source of joy into a culture war issue. Like, I can't stop you.
Well, the thing is,
But
things like sexism are so pervasive throughout all of society that includes even silly things like video games, where, a lot of people use video games as a retreat from societal pressures and such, but then they go in and, like, okay, like, how many women have been sexually assaulted in the world? Like, it's in the millions, right? Like, possibly
Yep.
even the billions, right? Because it is
Sure.
some ridiculously high, like 30 to 40% at least. I wouldn't
Sure.
be surprised if it was higher. And I'm talking globally, not any specific country. I don't think there's any studies that have done that, so that's why I'm being kind of vague with my figures. Um, so if that high a percentage of people go into a video game and then they see stuff that like reminds them of the harshness of reality and the things that they don't like about life and they wanted that reprieve, don't those people need a place where they can have stuff spoken out for them as well? I mean, like, I think it's good for that people of all sorts are represented in journalism. I think that there should be media outlets specifically tailored towards people who are right wing. I think there should be specific media outlets that are tailored towards those who are left wing. I think there should be some that are tailored for those who have elementary level school reading abilities and for those who have scientific degrees. I think it should be everywhere in between, of all sorts, for all interests and all political ideologues. And I think Kotaku just leans in a specific direction that I don't think you agree with in some of the political aspects. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, yes. Yes. And again, there's the larger issue, right? I hate um the power construct. I think I hated a little bit the construct that every interaction is an interaction of relative power between the two people. Even though power is not power the way you would think it is, but is shorthand for um, that one person in an interaction has a nondescript inherent advantage of some type over another person, even though it hurts my brain to think in that way. Like, I'm not trying to gain an advantage over anybody. Like, I just interact with people.
Sure. I mean, like, I
Um,
think there's inherent lines, and I see this social hierarchy as a weird system of Venn diagrams that overlap in different ways, and like being white has some privileges,
I,
being
I
black
think
has some privileges,
sure.
less so in the
So
U.S. than elsewhere.
I'm
Um,
actually I'm really glad you brought that up, Ken, because I hate the privilege theory model because I think it's incomplete.
Go
Because
on.
I don't think you can talk about privilege until you talk about responsibility,
Okay.
right? So privilege. So in I guess maybe in an idealistic sort of model, right? Privileges are derived from responsibility, right? And I don't really want to get into this topic, but it's my responsibility to be less rapey, even though I've never raped anybody.
Well, no, I think it's more that there's a culture surrounding sexual assault in the world that has developed, and that means that certain phrases and so okay, the system that was put in place by that we have right now, both in terms of sexism, racism, homophobia, all that stuff that exists. It exists because it was all put in place by a government and by, well, or governments, by a system of people, by organizations that at one time were allowed to be openly prejudice in whatever form that may be, right? And we have factual evidence of this, right? We have proof of cruel laws, right? And
Sure.
right, that's those things are facts. But that
Yeah.
system, even though those major laws that were all about equality and such were removed, that system and the culture behind it and the flags that were flown and the, whatever it may be, and this is not just I am leaning towards American politics there because it's an easy example, but the same thing exists for every kind of ism out there, right? Every kind of prejudice that exists, that our society has been kind of forged on the basis of a lot of prejudice, and that means that those power systems are still in play, and it's hard to see. It's like this slightly. It's no longer this obvious thing where you can point at. Like, I wish it kind of was in some way. I wish there was a single law that could be revoked that would solve problems, but the problem is that it's a systemic thing that's pervasive and part of the systems in place today, all the way down to like strange systems like how hunting laws in specific regions and times of years are in place, or holidays, or drinking times, weird things like that you think, how can that possibly be prejudice against this group? That has nothing to do with it. And then you actually look back at the system, you look at the history, and you put it in place, and it starts to make sense. And the reason I say all this is because I think that when we think about things like video games and having a woman who's now the editor in chief for a big video games journalism company. One of the things that you said before was that you think it's in part a sort of I can't remember how you phrased it. She was partly put in place because of the fact that she has certain political views, though, right? And because she's a woman, and because she's liberal, and all that, right? I think that's part of it.
She certainly checks the diversity box, right?
Right.
And
So
in an environment like online media in America, where the goal is not where the goal is to virtue signal as hard as possible, rather than doing anything journalistically. Yeah, I think it's, again, I think it's as much the corporate overlords of Kotaku trying to play to the home audience. Like, I don't necessarily think.
absolutely, I'm not going to say otherwise. I do think that in the end, class is the number one issue in most ism issues, right? Anytime we talk about prejudice, the real problem that comes down to is class, and that because that's usually how it's portrayed most. That's how any prejudice is usually exacerbated and abused through is class systems. So yeah, I think that the corporate overlords behind Kotaku probably are putting somebody in place that will make them more money. And even if it's something as shallow as, oh, well, they tick these certain diversity box, I could see that happening. I'm not going to say that I think that she's been hired because she's a woman, or any other diversity requirements. I don't know her sexuality or racial origins or anything like that. I don't know. And I'm not going to claim that that's all the only reason that she was hired. I really don't. I have no idea. I haven't looked at her CV. I didn't see the other candidates on the jobs list. I don't know. But my point is, would I be surprised if a company whose only purpose is to make money would really be so ethically sound as to actually consider? No, I think that they would do something as shallow as hiring somebody for those reasons. That wouldn't shock me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm hearing the both sides, and there's, for me, kind of in between it to a degree. Well, I hear a lot and see a lot of what's been happening around the journalism aspect, and there's articles and the kind of things that it seems like Kotaku chooses to cover, portray, and the opinions they showcase. Very rarely do I find anything from them that aligns in a way that I find value in. Every once in a while, there's some specific thing on a review on something that I haven't seen on another site that I might read through and kind of get something out of. But much to what Ken's point is about, I do believe every business out there's job is to make money, and therefore, if you look at any decision being made, you got to expect it is based on a feeling that more money will be made by this decision than if they did something else. That is my cynical view of, corporations and business around the world that I think holds fairly true, that I think motivation's money. But specifically to that, though, I think that says there is an audience, right? There's an audience who wants to see and hear these kind of things. Now, on the same note, back to Todd's point about kind of what it sounds like, Todd, you're expecting from gaming media journalism and the kind of things that you find value in what they're covering. It really doesn't sound like Kotaku has provided that, and certainly not under Patricia's future leadership in this article or this kind of call out of what she plans to do is going to give you anything that you're going to find value in.
Right. So, and again, right, there was a Kotaku journalist, Jason Schreier, who started to break the stories about crunch, right, at all these dev houses, to the point where it sort of became the topic du jour online for a while, where it was like, oh God, software, a game development house had to do crunch, and it's just like, you know what, welcome to the tech industry. Like there's not a dev house on earth that doesn't do crunch. We talked to Hordak. We talked to Hordak a couple of weeks ago, right? And you could just see it in his eyes. Crunch happens everywhere. So there's a discussion to be had, and the discussion is a relevant one, and the discussion is a great one to have. And there, again, if someone had the intellectual chops to be able to talk about, hourly exempt employee status in America, and the idea that all of these white-collar jobs should be salaried, so you work the 70-hour weeks when the 70-hour weeks are warranted, but then after you deliver, like, you go away for 4 months, right? Because there's nothing to do. Or you go away for 6 weeks and then you come back and squash bugs, right? Because inevitably there's going to be bugs and you're going to have to take care of them. Or there's a discussion to be had about how we as gamers should be more receptive to the idea of a dev house slipping schedule, right? That's a discussion. That's a discussion based on the crunch, the larger crunch issue that you could have. And Kotaku could, because of its readership, or Polygon, or RPS, or Destructoid, or Gamasutra, or there are so many gaming websites in the space that could take this on, right? It's not just Kotaku, it's any of them. It's just that Kotaku's got a new editor-in-chief and could have changed direction in this way, but isn't going to. It's just going to be more woke crap. Right? Well, I mean, it is, right? That's what she does. And the fable of the fox and the scorpion, you cannot deny something its nature, or someone their nature. So any of these gaming websites could take the lead in the discussion of, maybe we should get rid of hourly exempt employee status, or maybe we should look at the way these employees are compensated, or maybe it's time for game devs to organize. Maybe it's time for EA game devs to start a labor union, right? But that takes a level of intellectual chops that your average video game, and they're not really video game writers, they're culture writers, that your average culture writer just doesn't have.
Well,
right? Because I can barely talk intelligently about labor management relations. And my dad was in a union for most of the time that I was growing up. So I don't have direct experience, but I sure got a bunch by osmosis. And I still don't feel like I can talk about it intelligently.
There's an entire... one of the main political parties in the UK is the Labour Party, which of course was based on the premise of that sort of, not necessarily communist, but like the sort of leaning left wing, but very unionized approach and giving rights to workers and such, very pro labor unions. So I think in the UK, a lot of us were raised with a lot of that thinking without necessarily realizing that it had to do much with that, because the unions are failing in the UK like they did in the US, sadly.
Sure. Right. There are lots of discussions, and I'll tell you what, even if you desperately want your gaming website to be really a culture war website, even then, I think there's a fantastic discussion to be had. We just came out of Pride Month, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the only mainstream media outlet that sort of glanced the topic was Forbes, or sorry, not Forbes, Fortune, right? But why did all of the Middle East divisions of all these corporate entities not change their logos when everybody in North America, and Europe did?
That's easy. It's because homophobia is way more prevalent and legalized in much of the Middle East.
Well, okay, but so should we be having that discussion?
Yes,
Isn't
absolutely.
isn't
I've been a
that
very big
discussion that
advocate for
we
the
should
fact
be
that,
having rather
yeah,
than saying your average bloke in the Midlands in the UK is a homophobe?
well, a lot of them are. I actually have. I've been having frequent games with some of my friends every Thursday night. Back home, it's our way of staying in touch while I'm in the US. And one of them has been bringing in his little brother, and we're having chats with him. And I asked, we ended up talking a couple of things. He keeps calling things gay. You know, he's a kid, so in Scotland that's like a thing, and it's something that I've been trying to educate people about. Because gay is not actually just it's the same way as saying something's crap, right? So you say, oh, that's gay. That's a terrible idea. Um, and so I've been trying to say to him like, oh, how would you feel if you saw somebody who was gay on the street, like a couple who are boyfriends? And he went, oh, I'd be weird. I wouldn't like it. It'd make me uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, like that is now homophobia. Like you're a kid, and and yeah, obviously he's young and impressionable. And I used to have views that weren't as great. They weren't great either. But the best way to do is educate. And I was like, so I've been trying to talk to him about these things. I've not yet told him that I'm bisexual. I'm holding that one back until I can maybe make him see the light a little bit more. But that kind of thing is common in the UK. That's a very common, especially in the younger years and in the working class. There's a lot of homophobia. But yes, Todd, I do generally agree. I'm just saying that when you say the average bloke in the Midlands, I'm like, well, the chances are the average bloke in the Midlands would be homophobic, actually.
Well,
I guess
but the answer to both of you, right?
I'm sorry, Wayne. My point is in all of this is that there's a discontinuity in the way not only things like pride are treated, which I guess, like if you squint hard enough, maybe you could rationalize, but also in the way that the coverage of these things is treated. Like it's okay to crap on Hungary, but we're not going to have the discussion about the way pride is handled in the KSA or Iran or
do not get me wrong.
A whole host of
Same
other
with feminism.
countries.
Absolute same problem with feminism. People are very happy to talk about like comparatively minor stuff that's going on in the US and fighting for that, but are unwilling to talk about another country who has extreme sexism built into the fabric of culture, where it's much more prevalent, where there are clear laws that completely violate anything even vaguely resembling equal rights. And where places, where where homosexuality is an offense that punishable by corporate punishment, right? Like that corporal punishment, sorry, not corporate, although I guess it is as well. And so don't get me wrong, yeah, I totally agree with you, and I very much hate that about a lot of these so-called liberals in the U.S. Who are very proudly voting Democrat, but then as soon as you bring up another culture like Turkey and say how it's incredibly homophobic over there, they're unwilling to talk about it because they want to respect that culture. That's not respecting a culture, and any culture that has that element in it needs to be reviewed. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that every single, I don't know, Turkish relic needs to be put into a bonfire. That's not my point at all. And don't exaggerate and be ridiculous. My point is simply that we need to review the homophobic elements of any culture and the sexist elements of any culture. And I don't give a crap where in the world it originates. And it doesn't matter to me. It's bad. And also, just as a side note here, talking about these companies who have the pride flags in their logo, they're still disgusting companies that would happily screw over women and screw over any minority if they gave them an extra dime. I know it, you know it, we all know it. And so I think whenever I see a pride flag in a company, it doesn't make me feel all lovely and welcome here in the US. It makes me feel like a victim to capitalism. That's all.
All about the
so
money.
On that point, I think you and I are in agreement.
I say
For
Don't
sure.
get me
we
wrong,
talked
I'm
about
glad we're
before.
a place-
It's
I'm
all
glad
it's all
we're in a
about
place in society where we can have the flag shown. Well, mostly. I mean, you still see whenever that there's a pride flag post anyway, you'll see thousands of comments of people saying that's disgusting, you should burn it. That's still very, very common. But still, I am glad we're in a place in society where companies can do that without immediately losing their without their CEO being immediately fired for going against what the public want or whatever. I guess
well.
it is kind of nice that that's acceptable to an extent.
So what's in there, right? Is like I said before, corporations, money, motivation. That's it. Done. Don't think
Yep.
beyond that. Other than that, you can say like, but is there still value in some of the actions you see? While yes, the motivation is money, can you still find value? So like you said, Ken, that the flag can be shown commonly now, and it's more represented more often thing, and that parades can happen and people can celebrate, and it has become something that is more visible, right, about any of these subjects, and less violence around and less negativity towards. I'd say there's value. It's showing cases, it's becoming a more normalized thing to the world, such that less generally people may have views like your friend's brother, right? And so in some ways it is still got value. There's a lot of work to be done. I heavily agree with everyone who showcases the hypocrisy of people who claim to have a major value point about something in a culture, especially locally, that they want to see changed. But when they lean on that it's a humanity issue and won't extend that concern beyond our borders. I absolutely agree. It doesn't matter the issue. I think that is hypocrisy at high, and I see it constantly. Like you said, the relative level of any of those issues in the U.S. compared to many places around the world. Back to,
Absolutely.
but the motivation piece and the money piece and what we're talking about journalism as a whole, where Kotaku's at and where it's going, and the gaming community, right, is I give credit that I have seen some of the kind of things that she specifically has put out there, like Todd has mentioned, and I believe the view she provides is from a very specific bias. And in doing so, it's funny because there are some comments on the article she has in Kotaku underneath of people saying, wow, you're talking about these things in inclusion, but it seems like you're completely negating these discussion points. The person who mentioned that brought it up as a conservative views kind of thing, and of course, as soon as you use liberal conservative, it becomes a whole political conversation or fight. And so there's a thing there where it sounds to me like, Todd, you are asking for, would like to see in general journalism as a whole, but definitely around gaming as having a more specific purpose, use, something that you could do bigger things and better and such. And the challenge I have is that, unfortunately, I don't think there's any standard that says what anyone has to focus on or cover. And while
there's not,
right,
this is just do we need 100,000 culture war websites? No. I don't think we need. I don't think we need 1,000 culture war websites.
But
and
Todd,
ideally, we'd only have about 10.
But Todd,
right?
I dislike
if
the word
we have,
because
well,
it's
complex,
right?
Well, I'll tack to that to a degree because we don't need most of the things that exist in the world around us. However, if from a perspective, the market will, sustain 100,000 sources of whatever commentary from whatever opinion, then there's a market for it, right? People are willing to put eyeballs and time on it enough for it to exist. And I can comfortably point out like locations and media resources that I think aren't just low in value, but I would argue are dangerous to society and yet have major things and such. And I feel like there's almost more concern there than, because what I think from my own perspective Kotaku will run into is that people who don't follow or care or agree with the kinds of stories being covered by them and the kind of opinions they're pressing are going to stop going to them. And if it is truly something that the general society or consumers out there for media don't like, they'll stop going. They'll stop reading it, and you'll see that in the numbers. Unfortunately, the other side there may be, depending on certain perspective, is if their viewership and people staying on the site increases, then that tells you there's an audience for that as well. I discussed that when I watched politics side of things, and I see a large number of people vote for someone that I believe is dangerous to the future of the country I live in. It concerns me because that tells me there's a lot of people who find value in the things being represented there. And I have to accept and understand that that's reality. And that there are a lot of people who see the world in a way that I don't agree with.
So I hear you. The websites like Kotaku are always going to have an advantage because of Mother Google, right? I just popped in World of Warcraft Classic, right? And so just into a basic Google search, World of Warcraft Classic, right? So obviously Blizzard or WorldofWarcraft.com, Battle.net, Wikipedia, Wowhead, Gamer.no, which is a Norwegian video game site, Fandom. But here we go. We're on page 1, Tech Radar first, and then a couple of YouTube videos, Blizzard forums, IGN. There's Reddit, GameReactor.no.
The order in which Google does its results is a complex algorithm, but from what I understand of it, the reason what it chooses to put on the front page is largely based on click-throughs, right? So the number of people who have gone there in the past.
Sure,
so,
but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that all of the usual suspects, which the exception, I guess, in my case, because I'm in Norway, of the Norwegian websites, right, are all the same. Okay, here's a couple that I wouldn't have expected. Tom's Hardware Guide.
Dude, they cover
can I just
everything.
ask, are you an incognito? Or are you doing this within your
No,
browser?
I'm doing it from my account. I just
Right,
typed
so
in
it's
World
already
of
gonna
Warcraft
crash it.
Classic into the search bar and hit enter.
Yeah, that's going to be massively personalized. So I wouldn't say that's representative at all of what Google does.
Well, I mean, but
they're
to the
basing on what
point,
you've done in the past.
to the point of how do websites get in front of people's eyeballs, I think is the point here, right?
Sure.
And thus Todd was saying about an advantage, meaning that a site that exists out there that already has a lot of viewership for some reason, whatever, it sounds to me, or I think you both might agree, would likely as a whole rank up faster in how many times they would come up as a site as a reference for any article, regardless of what's written. If they have one versus Mom and Bob's Shop 2 has an article on the same thing, it is probably more likely that the site that generally has more traffic will rank higher on a result.
Sure.
Agreed? Through whatever
There's a reason
algorithm they come up
our
with.
old VCW site didn't come up first.
What? That they're not scraping a site from 2000 and like...
Yeah.
Anyhow. But, well, because I did a similar search, right? I just did upcoming games. And I went, my primary search engine is DuckDuckGo. And on it, first thing that comes up other than an ad at the top, of course, IGN, then I got PCGamesN.com, Metacritic, Games Radar, GameStop, PC Gamer.
That's interesting. If I remember correctly, PC Games N. No. PC Games N is the website that gave Hearthstone a 9 out of 10 in its review. Never once talked about card design and gave away like 3,000 beta keys for.
Well, I don't know.
I think I'm remembering that correctly.
That was one that I know them. But
Did
what
you
I was
touch your cable again, Wayne?
Oh, am I roboting?
Yeah, it seems to be fixing now, though.
Oh, no. I had not touched anything else. I'm sit back on my chair.
Yep, it's back to normal. It's back to normal.
I was going to say that for me, because when I'm trying to pull media that I want to read, right, I often look at what is the title. One, is it clickbait, right? Is it obviously something that tries to generate a response in me emotionally from just the title? Or is it something that looks informational? And then I do look at the source, right, the site. And I kind of click through multiple. Because the thing that I don't do, and I don't know what you guys do, and maybe others out there, I'd love to be informed. I don't often go directly to a website like IGN or Kotaku or whatever to find an article. Rarely, if I know it's a cycle of time, like E3 is just happening, I may then go because my expectation is those main sites will all have resources and people dedicated to covering that activity. And so I might get the latest breaking news or like the announcement, or really what I'm looking for is the link to the video, right? That they put out right away, that I can get to the source. But I usually just search for what it is I'm curious about, admittedly, and a search engine of some time, so SEO matters, to find what I'm after and to just get some information about it. Or I often get recommended by seeing articles posted by others. So one of the things that Patricia brings up in her article, like the goals of what she's trying to accomplish, is essentially talking about creating a website that, let's see, maybe it's in this part. The challenge for a gaming website like Kotaku's is finding the right balance and coverage. Much of what I just described, so we didn't get into that, the idea of, is the base mandate of any good news organization. Nothing but truth is treated as sacred. Nothing but the truth is treated as sacred. The harder sell is that a website can do all of that while also retaining a sense of humor. Games matter, but also games are silly and weird because humans are silly and weird. Stating the truth is not just about reserving space for a heady topic. It's giving ourselves permission to have some fun on the page. Where is it? She was saying, like, some of what I outlined is a continuation of the approach started by my predecessor, Stephen Totilo, but I don't want just more Kotaku with a different stable of writers and editors. Why bother? Future Kotaku, to me, spans beyond video games. Games will always be the driving force, but I'd like to think that what unites us is our willingness to hold a controller. Nerds are defined by fandom and an insatiable curiosity for how things work. Sometimes that drive and obsession unfolds in video games, but not always. So, yeah, she's talking about that. There was a piece, I can't find the paragraph on, that she had talked about in general, that she wants to be able to build Kotaku as a place that people always come back to for a specific kind of, information, feel, things like that. And it just, I remember when I read it, it triggered me in the thought of like, man, yes, there are entities I go to that I trust for certain content, but very few of them are a Kotaku, or even in many cases an IGN. Like, I don't go to those sites expecting them to inform me. I go to them when I think they might have something on an article that I might care about to see if they do real quick. And if not, then I continue searching elsewhere.
I tend to go for just factual stuff. Like, I don't.
Well,
really,
it's not even just that. It's like
there was the release day of this game. That's all I really need from them. I don't give a crap whether they're conservative or left wing or whatever. I'm just wanting to know that date.
Well, and maybe I'm weird that I don't read a lot of those types of cultural pieces because they don't often matter to me. I don't think they often make an effect on what world's going to happen. Because equally back to even Ken, what you were kind of talking about a hope for more access, different things to be represented, and how the history of gaming has things in it that maybe don't hold the same value as today. The challenge I have back in some ways is that, and I had this discussion with someone else recently, is that I don't care in a lot of ways that there's a lot of specific experiences you get in games, because I do care that this can be, I don't know how to take this. I don't believe every game needs to cater to everybody. That's like a distillation of it.
It's not about any single instance.
Well, but in that way, such that when someone like, I've seen criticism of games that I quite enjoy from sites like Kotaku, from people like Patricia, that beat on this game existing in the way it does because they don't feel like it is inclusive enough. Or that it does something that didn't check every box they were after, and then they just blast it, versus what I would hope most people would do, which is to say, and thus this game isn't quite what I wanted or hoped, and move on. But one of the concerns, and this actually speaks towards Todd's side of where I'm hearing things, is that you get a group that has such a high voice, and they seem to choose to make, as a term would be, a mountain out of a molehill in many cases, about they can't just move on to the next title and say, but here's one we really do love because it hits everything we like. Instead, there's a lot of these things that have large voices that turn around and then villainize another game for not doing everything they demand or want it to do.
Well, sure,
and
but
thus
that's,
could
again,
negatively
back to
impact. But then they can negatively impact that organization and put pressure on them to do something different in the future, where they may have made an amazing game, just not for that audience, right?
Well, it depends on the type of game and what it is, right? Like if you're playing generic FPS with a white male shooter, that's pretty much fine. That's what you'd expect, generally speaking. I'm not trying to make any strange jokes there. I'm genuinely saying that's pretty, like, who cares, right? But then if another game came out 2 years later and it had a black main character, that should also be equally fine. But at the same time, if we're gonna crap on gaming journalism sites for crapping on games, I often find that when there is representation, people call it pandering and crap all over it.
Well, I see it both
Life
ways.
is Strange is one example.
Well, and that's the thing, right? For me, Life is Strange is not a game that I care about. And so thus, I wasted little to no energy on identifying something for me to dislike in it. It was like I looked at the gameplay and generally the characters involved, and I just didn't see any draw for me. But I agree. I saw people who chose to put a lot of energy into decisions about how the game was represented, the characters and stuff like that, to crap all over it. And I was like, for me, I guess, and there's this side, and yes, like you were hinting at again, Ken, money. There is a market for haterade, right? There's a market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For people, I always say this, when you see the clickbait title on half the articles or videos on YouTube from Nobody Number 5, who has the shocking image, it's all the cookie cutter, this is how you get views, the list you go down. The shock thing of like, am I the only one who sees how garbage this thing is? Take on something. Because otherwise that person wouldn't exist. Because they're filling this tiny niche that even though less than 2% of people agree with them, 2% of everybody is a lot. And so they live in that little space, right? Yes. And for me, it bugs me and I have no energy.
And everybody wants their tribe to not be just them. Right?
True.
Well, I know it's
tribe. Oh no, the way you say it, I agree. I agree. There's truth to that. That it's you feel a lot better when you realize, or you hope, or can find, or make a place where there's others around you who agree. It is a nature that sucks to be truly alone. I want to be counterculture, but with a lot of other people. Right. That has always been the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily about being counterculture, right? I have an opinion, and I personally am strong enough to be on my own and have an opinion and say, for example, the Burning Crusade, where we're at in WoW Classic right now with the Burning Crusade, is at or near the top of as good as World of Warcraft will ever be, right? And I know there are a lot of people who will agree with me, but I know that I'm in the minority of that belief. I'll give you another more extreme example. I got my money's worth for Fallout 76.
That is definitely a minority opinion.
Right? And I paid full price for it. So,
oh, man.
Is it installed on my computer now? No. Do I need to do anything else with it? No. Is Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 installed on my computer? Not right now, I don't think. I need to check. No, neither one is. Neither Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 are installed on my computer right now. Skyrim's not installed on my computer right now. Did I get my money's worth out of all of those games? You bet. I sure did.
Well, yeah, I don't think whether a game is worthwhile or not is based on whether you're playing it right now, because that'd be a very short list.
Yeah, but so my point is, right, and this happened with Cyberpunk too, right? A handful of people with big audiences said these games were bad. And so the whole herd, like lemmings, moved in that direction. In the meantime, right, I'm playing the game. I thought the storytelling element within no NPCs, that all the NPCs were dead, was fantastic. Like, it drove home how serious the situation was in the game world. It's like, no, everyone's dead. This is how serious this is. And you've popped out of the vault, and there's no one. Like, you're following logs. Like, eventually, I swear to you, during the leveling process in 76, I could have sworn to you, I was waiting and waiting and waiting. When am I going to find the people? There's got to be people. Like, there has to be. At some point, it's like, yes, the nuclear war didn't kill everybody. And then you come to the realization, like, you have this sort of like low yield stages of grief, right? Where it's just like, okay, I just have to make you're sort of you're in denial, and then you start bargaining or making deals with yourself. Like, if I just make it to the next area, there'll be people there, kind of thing. And then you finally come to this realization, like, I don't know, I had a bunch of hours in, where you realize that the nuclear war was the least bad thing to happen in this little area of the world, and that there were much, much worse things that have happened in this area. And I just thought it was a really effective and cool and different way to tell the story in a Fallout game, and Bethesda will never do it again. Because the game that they tried it on got crapped on so hard. Right? There's a fantastic discussion that a mainstream video game website could have that none of them will have. Right? And I'm sorry, I'm going to totally non sequitur because we're 3 minutes before the end of the show. And I really, really want to and I really want to get into this. I also want to talk about real quickly the paragraph you read, Wayne, before the break about anger, because I'm not angry about any of the things that she's mentioned. I'm angry because the video game industry has been asleep for years now and is not going to wake up anytime soon. And because right, the change in the editor-in-chief is a chance to change direction, and Kotaku's direction is not going to fundamentally change, despite all of the promises in this EIC message that it's going to. It's not. Now the paragraph. So the lead-in is the video game industry is worth more than the movie industry. I mentioned these accomplishments not to prove gaming is worth taking seriously, but to take that one step further. If games are indeed as important as we say they are, then we should feel comfortable enough to hold them to a higher standard. If we truly respect this space, we should be able to challenge the video game industry, its products, and the community surrounding it. If we want the world to stop treating games like mere toys, we have to stop treating video games like a wilting flower that must be protected at all costs. Well, so first of all, games aren't toys. The two things are totally different. Second of all, I
think she just means things to play, right? Play with.
Well, okay, but I hate the idea of taking video games seriously, right? Because a whole bunch of people who lack the intellectual and emotional chops to have that discussion are in control of that discussion. Like, we can have those discussions because we're all mature adults. And we can talk and do multivariant analysis and talk about those kind of things. But the average Kotaku writer can't. Right? They just can't. And so I don't want video games if Patricia Hernandez is going to be in charge of the discussion about video games and we're going to take video games seriously, I don't want to take video games seriously. I would rather they be toys. Truthfully. Because then I could just play them and enjoy them, and I don't have to have some a-hole that I really don't know, but I know their work, who's going to judge me based on what I do in my free time. Right? I don't judge anybody what they do in their free time. I don't care. and all I ask is for that to be returned to me in kind. And Kotaku under Patricia Hernandez's leadership is incapable of doing that.
All right. I think that's a good wrap up of your sort of overview of points and why you introduced this topic today. Thank you for again having a nice, respectful argument with me today, Todd. I appreciate that. I always do enjoy these.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I think Wayne did a good job of mediating there as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just I can see aspects of both sides, but like so many things, I think there's a median that can be reached if people just talked. Regardless, and I appreciate the conversation and liveliness here, and I'd be very curious to hear and see the opinions of others out there about subjects like this. Do you even follow Kotaku? Is that a site you care about? Is it one that you're actually like, yeah, and I'm really excited and I can't wait to see what Patricia does with it? Is there something that like journalists out there around gaming have been failing for you, or you think they've missed the boat on? Same that even we could spend a little more in depth for you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, everyone. And if you could email us in at vtwshowx@gmail.com, we'd very much appreciate it. I know the Ionis of the world in the long format could give us all kinds of highlights to his analysis of the journalistic sphere. And so I do value it. I
appreciate a different viewpoint like that. Yeah, absolutely.
I do appreciate the various viewpoints because I see where in most cases I believe everything has a place and could exist to some level, and not everything has to be for me. And as long as it doesn't hurt me, and this is the key for like the challenge of voices being too loud sometimes that don't actually represent the true market, then as long as it doesn't affect me negatively, I'm mostly fine. But once it does, I think the criticism is valid. And I start to want to see those things held in check. But we'll see. So we can only hope to see what comes forward with Kotaku in the future. Thank you guys for the conversation. And thank all of you for kicking in.
I'm sorry, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Because I really came off like an a-hole in this episode. And I really, I don't care because I don't read. I will, of course, be hopeful. Even though I'm a cynic at heart, I will hope for the best. When it all goes to hell, I won't be surprised. Or if it all goes to hell, I won't be surprised.
And if it goes away, you see. And if you see examples of where the platform of Kotaku is used in a way that you could see as negative, I think it's valid to bring up and hold that to account. I think that's the whole point, is to say like, yep, you did this, but you used it in this way, and that wasn't cool, right? And I think that's appropriate. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And yes, gosh, maybe Ken and I, the way we talk about wanting facts, is where I'd like to see most journalism, because if I want, we all find them, the people, the Yahtzees of the world and stuff, for the opinions that help me find the things I may need. I go to the people that I know I resonate with, that share my kind of views. And thus, when I have witnessed their opinions and let it guide my decisions for purchasing, it's led me well. And if not, I say screw you and I go somewhere else. So I advise to always keep your references up to date. All right, we need to get out of here. We've pushed it past the limits, and it's time for us to call it a week. So all of you, thank you very much for joining in. Ken, could you do us the honors? Even though we make it easier and easier.
You have been watching, listening, and enjoying Show X here on Twitch and or YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can check out all the various places that we have social medias, and we host our show videos afterwards, and where we post things and stuff and discussions and all that. All can be accessed through one link. So you don't need to know our subreddit name. You don't need to know our Instagram name. You don't need to know our email address. Instead, all you need to know is the one link that's already on the screen, which is linktr.ee/showx. Go there and it has a list of all the links you'll need for the show. You can find everything you need there. So with that, thank you so much for hosting today, Mr. Wayne, especially in your Game Fest riddled mind.
Diminished state.
Yes, very much appreciate it. And thank you, Todd, again, as I said, for the interesting discussion.
we're out here. We want to wish all of you a very strong salute to all of you out there, and we look forward to catching you again in the future. Happy gaming week, everybody! Can't wait to see you again. This is Science. Bye!
Goodbye. See you next zombie. Good night.